Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to our International Evaluation podcast, sponsored by the American Evaluation Association and the American Journal of Evaluation. I'm Zenda Ophir. I'm an evaluation specialist from South Africa, currently based in Geneva in Switzerland. And I have a partner with me today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deborah Rugg. I'm a former UN evaluation director and now an independent evaluation consultant based in San Francisco. And Zenda and I are co-editing the new section in AJE on international developments in evaluation. And we have the pleasure today of having a couple of authors who have contributed to that special issue to be with us to describe their new article. And their article is entitled Advancing Evaluation and Learning on Transformational Change, the Lessons from the Climate Investment Fund's Transformational Change Learning Partnership. So I'm pleased to have with me today Reagan Smurthwaite and Anna Williams. My first question for you, maybe Anna, is to you. Could you describe the TCLP for us and why you wrote this article?
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Zenda. I will do this in as short a period of time as I can. This is a global question and a global challenge and opportunity. The context is in climate change space and the Climate Investment Fund's work, which started in 2008. And for about 10 years was the largest investment in climate change in the world, $8.5 billion in donations from 14 countries, implemented in over 70 low and middle income countries, focused on both preventing climate change and preparing for it. With that context, everybody understood at the outset of the climate crisis that we needed a real change in our systems and societies to tackle the climate crisis, both pending and now definitely materializing. And the word transformational change came up in 2008 at the founding of CIF, the Climate Investment Fund, as an overarching goal of this fund. After a few years of implementation of this very ambitious set of programs through this fund, these funds actually, we, working on evaluation and learning, knew that somebody had to start to answer, what is transformational change? How do we know when it's occurring and if work is making a difference toward, that kind of change, or at least contributing to it? And that's the question we set out to ask. We formed a global partnership focused on first answering that question, what do we mean? Looking at dimensions of transformational change, working definitions of what that means, and then embarking on an ambitious and very intense evaluation in 2018 of transformational change in the Climate Investment Fund context. That was itself transformative, and not only learning about transformational change in that sense, but in helping to transform the role of evaluation in so doing. The global partnership that we formed and the infusion of both evaluation and real-time learning in that partnership really embodied what we mean in this article. Not only what is transformational change and how to evaluate it, but truly how to transform evaluation at the same time. Since 2018, the partnership has intentionally opened up to be more globally inclusive and embracing people who'd like to participate from all over the world, independent of their relationship to this particular set of institutions or the prior work on the TCLP. The work has advanced quite a bit and is now at a stage of really moving into advanced concepts and practice. Before I hand it over to my colleague Regan, who will explain some of the more advanced work, I'd like to reflect on why we wrote this article for AJE and what we intended to do in terms of audience. The work of the TCLP was really quite introspective and focused on a particular set of efforts and institutions and the climate context. But the work that we did, and I think the evaluation trailblazing that we have tried to embody, really can inform broader evaluation work and perhaps inform the next generation of thinking about how learning and evaluation can go together in these spaces that are still emerging, really salient, and are quite constantly evolving, just like the real world is. The audience for this was intended to be those inside the evaluation practice who might not be familiar with this work and are really thinking themselves about how to tackle these kinds of concepts and analytical issues to, advance our individual and collective work forward. And I will leave it at that. And hopefully that answers that question.
That's in a nutshell a description of a fantastic journey that I've had the privilege to have some insights of occasionally. And so it's excellent that we could have an article that at least describes part of that journey. But Anna, you did refer to the fact that the work has advanced since then. So Regan, can you describe that for us? What has happened since the publication, and what can we learn from that?
Absolutely. So in the article, we describe three main concepts of transformational change: the SIF's working definition, dimensions, and signals of transformational change. And throughout the article, we hint that there's a lot of work that is and was ongoing throughout 2020. So since the publication of the article, we have, through a consultative process with Transformational Change Learning Partnership participants, to update the definition of transformational change. And we've also updated the dimensions of transformational change, which must be present to some extent for confidence that climate actions are transformational. So the four dimensions that we discuss in the article are relevance, systemic change, scale, and sustainability. Since then, we've updated those dimensions to add the dimension of speed and also to change sustainability to adaptive sustainability. In the evaluation community, there's an ongoing conversation about integrating evaluative thinking and learning into more of the program or project cycle. And so we've really emphasized the need for continued attentiveness to new learning and adaptiveness to act on that learning in the dimensions of relevance and adaptive sustainability. We also added the dimension of speed to highlight the urgency of the climate crisis. Those concepts, as I said, have been revised through this participatory process, and we've now taken those concepts and applied them to several case studies, the soonest of which to be published will be a case study on transformational change in forests in Mexico. So we're excited to not only have updated concepts, but to start applying those.
Wow, thanks, Regan. This is really exciting. I really am wondering, what can evaluators do to help make the biggest difference in climate change? Really looking forward to seeing what sort of suggestions or tips you have for all of us. Anna, maybe you could comment on this one.
I think there are several things that evaluators can do, and it depends in part on what evaluators are aiming to do. Sometimes the work is more about an interim step toward a larger change and might be more local scale and not really looking at broad systems. And that's where some of the more traditional evaluation methods and ways of thinking are probably most well suited. When you're really looking at transformational change, and Regan touched upon the dimensions, it's a really different kind of animal, especially if what you're looking for is more advanced progress, which we would consider, intermediate progress or advanced progress. Those are very long-term concepts and also outside of the scope and time scale of most interventions, definitely outside of the scope and time scale of most evaluations. So when you're looking at that, and especially when I'm considering the frameworks that the TCLP has developed, we really have a different level of ambition and needs and challenges. Evaluators can really embrace the challenge and know that we're in a new frontier. That's the first thing to overcome, and that frontier is not one that any one person or expert or institution or method can really tackle, especially alone. We really need to do this together. And when I say we, I mean evaluators who are really committed and passionate about these issues. And in the evaluation space, I also mean letting go of some of our preconceptions of what is considered a credible method or, ways of working, and really embracing the uncertainty and the uncomfortable nature of getting to the next frontier and the next level. I also mean letting go of thinking of evaluation as the only modality or the prime modality. We sometimes don't do ourselves and our work justice by having evaluation being the entry point. We do need all of the types of expertise and research and analysis on this problem, just like we need it for the COVID-19 crisis. They're very similar. And for us to be quite insular as evaluators and trying to advance evaluation itself as a primary objective really can mean that we're not opening the door to a much more inclusive community of different kinds of experts who we really all need to solve this problem. That hurdle is the first one that I think evaluators can chew on and think about. And I think the TCLP and other collaborations are in the space of actively trying to do that. There are a number of methodological problems, and I already mentioned scope and timescale. Those apply directly to evaluation. In fact, the evaluation we did in 2018 confronted those head on. They have to do with scope, as mentioned, outside of the boundaries of interventions, but also geographically outside of boundaries. Timescale being much more long-term, uncertain, and largely unpredictable and uncontrollable. That poses a huge methodological challenge. Data not being available in this way, talking about transformational change explicitly, even primary data collection is a real challenge for all of these and related reasons. Beyond that, we really have methods that are just evolving to be able to tackle this. One thing evaluators can do is take these challenges and really think through them as a community. What does that mean for our work? Do we have to reduce the level of ambition of evaluation itself? I actually think we probably do. And in that way, if we can reduce the ambition of what we're trying to promise, and we can also manage expectations of those people who are hiring us. If we don't do that, what we're doing is perpetuating what might be buzzword compliance around transformation or setting false expectations that simply can't be met. I think we will be much stronger if we can really speak truth around these issues, and not just truth to power, but truth to ourselves and to those who are really working on solving this crisis and similar simultaneous crises. I do have a few other thoughts on what evaluators can do and how we can advance this, but let me pause and see if you have other questions first.
That's fantastic and are very powerful messages. So thank you for sharing that. I was wondering whether, Regan, I mean, Anna shared her lessons. Do you have some, or key messages, do you have some to share as a young evaluator, maybe based on, even if it's just one, on your work with TCLP?
Well, I think as a young evaluator and as a millennial, just knowing that the climate crisis is really the crisis of my generation, it's been a really great experience to be working on these issues of climate change, transformational change, and advancing the field of evaluation around these issues. And I will say that the TCLP, as we've mentioned, really brings in a wide variety of participants, and young evaluators are more than invited to participate in that. So as a young evaluator, it's just been really great to work with experts in the field to and use my own voice to advance understanding of transformational change so we can address the climate crisis in the next several decades. Before we close, as I mentioned, the TCLP has a lot of ongoing work and activities that people are invited to get involved with. You can find more information about our work at climateinvestmentfunds.org/TCLP. That's really the best way to stay up to date on our upcoming learning engagements and publications. You'll also be able to find more information about these updated concepts that we've discussed. And we have a lot of great work about building capacity for learning, evaluation, systems mapping that I think will be of interest to evaluators. So I encourage you to check out our website, subscribe to our newsletter, and get involved.
Thank you, Regan. That's really important information. And so with that, we have to end because our time is finished. And we really appreciate both Anna and Regan's inputs, as well as the listeners. We hope you enjoyed this. And we invite you to look at the article if you don't have access to the AJE. It will be available through open access until the end of June. Please have a look at it. The work that they've been doing and also after the article was written is truly worthwhile. And we hope you enjoy learning more about what it's been doing. Thank you.